So one of the most amazing things about my job as an investigative journalist is how easy it is to detect investment fraud. You know, I can tell within seconds, typically, of looking at something whether it's fraudulent or not, and then it takes a lot longer to do the research and find out the names of the people involved in order to write a substantial article and find out the names of the providers so I can put as much detail in as possible. But actually detecting the fraud is easy. And yet, you know, I know of no other type of criminal activity that swindles so many people out of so much money on an annual basis. And I can understand why investors, you know, lose money because they typically don't do any due diligence. If they like somebody, they tend to trust them. I do find it, though, surprising that so many professional service providers, you know, provide services to schemes that, you know, are often just, you know, not particularly sophisticated, and they leave themselves open to tremendous liability. So we're going to have a discussion about, you know, I've asked the panelists to sort of, after putting on quite a few of these types of sessions, I realized that we were putting them on for individual investors, and they really weren't coming to the conference, and they weren't really interested in the subject matter. So I've asked the panelists to sort of try as much as possible to sort of focus on the addressing some issues that relate to professional service providers, and, you know, with the aim of sort of reducing their liability, because, you know, they're you know, likely to be on the hook for some serious reputational and financial damages when investment frauds inevitably collapse. So to my immediate right is Carlo Federigoli, who is an Italian attorney based in Dubai, and he specializes in fraud investigations. And Carlo and I have had a few telephone conversations, and we're clearly on the same wavelength when it, you know, comes to fraud and, you know, understanding it. And to his right is James Pomeroy, who's based in Canada, and he specializes in forensic investigations for PwC. So James is going to kick off for 20 minutes or so. Then Carlo's going to speak for 20 minutes or so, and if there's any time left over, I'll fill in any gaps, and we'll take some questions. So, James?
Thanks, David. So, Mike, as David mentioned, I'm going to try and focus on some of these red flags that you see that are common hallmarks of investment fraud as they relate to service providers. Some of these may, you know, may be more attributable to what an investor may look for, but really, it's just an amalgamation of sort of my observations of about a dozen years of liquidating offshore banks and in investigating offshore investment vehicles.